recording. I'll do a backup recording.
I'd appreciate that. Anyway, welcome everybody to tonight's session, the first one of 2024. So, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you've had a great January so far because we're already in the middle of it. I hope you've realized that. It's kind of scary.
Already or only?
Well, I don't know. It depends on how fast you like to go. But from our side, it's been a nice little rest, but we're back here for some burning topics, and I thought I would pick an especially spicy one today with, I think, a lot of, debating possible or just a lot of differing opinions possible. I chose a question that I think a lot of us have had in our mind, at least at some point, and that is like, it's a reflection maybe of the state of gaming these days, but it's, I think, a huge ask in the industry and in our own, gamer spheres, like us as gamers, the communities and all that. But the question is, has gaming been moving on too quickly from itself? So I want to kind of maybe just give a little bit of context on the question is, like, are we taking games for granted way too much these days for the standard they are? Are we maybe not remembering games these days as fondly as games back in the day? What is the thought process behind this? But let's maybe first start with the easiest, I guess, of the dissections. Let's go around the room and maybe just ask, do we agree with this? We'll start wherever. Do you want to take us away, Imagine, first? You want to say, do you agree or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like fast fashion, It's something's in fashion one day, and then like a week later, something new comes out, and nobody remembers what they were playing last week anyway. There's a meme. I don't know, well, not a meme. There was a reel going around of this guy who put like 130 hours into Elden Ring or something. And he says you pick up Elden Ring and he can't remember Jack. He doesn't remember the story. He doesn't remember the controls. He doesn't remember anything like that. But give him a game that he played 20 years ago on a PlayStation 1 and he fits right back into it. Games were different back then.
Yeah, that's what the sentiment usually is, eh? Games were different back then as well. That's a big thing people say. Mr. Marty, how about you? What do you think? Do you remember games as fondly?
Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
No, I said, do you remember games as fondly nowadays?
So remember when we were little and we used to play things like Spore and those stuff?
Spore, yes, I remember Spore very well.
That was pretty much, like the prime and everything in that way. And games have moved on a lot since then.
Mm-hmm.
The way of creating hotspots in certain areas in new releases, or not generally new releases, but even sometimes people go back to older games and make it a new hotspot.
I see what you mean. Like, they'll go back and harken back to those like memories, and they'll play this game. It's like, man, look how good this game was, man. It still holds up to this day. Whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so.
Yeah.
Like, he's mentioning literally Spore, which is 15 years old. I'm pretty much betting, I think all of us in this room can say, oh, I remember Spore. Do you remember the creature stage? Do you remember when you walked around and you saw that big-ass epic and you were fearing for your life because you're like, I've evolved my guy so much, he's gonna die. And it's like, you're trying to, yeah. Like, that's a 15-year-old game, and I can instantly remember everything as well. Mr. Jude, how about you? What do you say?
I really do think that a lot of the games have changed, and how we play specific games have changed as well. More often than not, you ask your friends, "Hey yo, you guys wanna hop on and play this game?" rather than, "Hey man, are you coming to my house so we can like play Halo or something together?" And it's more of an online thing rather than people coming together and playing the game, or you playing a single player game by yourself. It's not as welcoming, or it's not as I don't know. For me personally, games have changed. It's not the same. It's not the same. I can think back to the time I played Metal Gear Solid 2. I was actually very young. I shouldn't have played it at the time, but I digress. And I just remember like it's so fondly. But when I think now and I think, oh man, I just finished Need for Speed Unbound. That was such a nonsense game. It wasn't nonsense, but you get what I'm trying to say.
I was there with you when you were finished Unbound. Yeah, I know exactly that feeling.
Yeah.
But that is also an
Yeah,
interesting point
so-
you make. The fact that like you kind of miss that warmth. The fact that like back then in the day we obviously didn't have the strong internet and the accessibility we have. We had like LAN sessions, or we had split screen
Exactly.
sessions, or we had literally, if you didn't have a split screen game or multiplayer game, the literal thing would be you buy a new single player game, you tell your friends about it, they get excited with you, they come to your house the weekend, and I kid you not, kids like of today, you would play the single player
Yeah.
game, and the people would sit on the bed or the couch behind you and watch you play the single player game, and you'd all freak out because, oh my god, look at the new single player game! And you take turns playing it on one controller or like the PC or whatever.
Exactly.
I mean, it's probably easier to form memories, right? If you're hanging out with your friends in the same place, you know, like if you're online, there's that connection isn't there. So maybe that's why you don't remember like the games like we did back then.
It is a valid point. That's that's why we're gonna have a very contentious podcast now, because this thing is like, how well are we remembering these memories, or are we only holding on to the memories? It's gonna become very contentious now. Final person though, Mr. Sock, do you agree with what we have spoken?
Well, yeah, obviously I agree. It's just how I agree is on 2 points, because I remember quite well what it was like in 2003, 2004. It wasn't like now where if one game releases in a genre, there's going to be 5 other games in that genre releasing. Like if Call of Duty released, it would be another year, maybe 2 years until Battlefield released. And then 2 years after that, you got Medal of Honor. So you didn't get all 3 games in the same month trying to compete for your attention. You got time to absorb all of them.
You didn't have money either.
With a friend that lives in. I had an interaction with a friend that lives in Singapore the other day.
Yeah.
Just like blew me away, and it made me feel so old. Because I had just gotten the last Pokemon game on the Switch, is Pokemon Violet, and I told them it's a brand new game. I'm looking forward to playing it. Like I'm gonna have tons of fun with it. And it hits me back. It's like, what are you talking about, man? It's an old game. Like, what do you mean? It's a year old. I'm like, that's not old, man. That's brand new.
It's not old.
No, it's an old game. Because that's what it's like. Like I'm only playing Hogwarts Legacy now, and that's still a new game to me, but it's dropped off the radar for almost everybody else in the RPG universe. Like Baldur's Gate, people consider Baldur's Gate almost old now. They're looking forward to Nightingale.
Well, that also ties in very well with what Imagine mentioned with the fast fashion. It kind of it turns a dime, and it's actually something that I wanted to ask particularly him about, because for those of you who are not familiar, Mr. Imagine is a gaming journalist. So I wanted to pick his brain, especially on a very thorny question, because, as I mentioned, all of us are going to have like a different opinion and a different outlook on this, depending also on the amount of games or the quantity of games you play in a year. If I'm playing 1 game a year, 2 games a year, 3 games a year, depending on whatever the case is, maybe I like to take things slow, or maybe I just like very specific games. Like, let's say I only like Apex and Valorant, and I'm only playing Apex and Valorant. I'm going to have a different outlook on things compared to someone who's playing like a lot of RPGs, a lot of shooters, a lot of that, a lot of this. But now I want to ask the gaming journalist, who's kind of its job it is to be reviewing games, to be playing a lot of games, to be looking into it. Like, how does, when you're working and when you're reviewing and stuff like that, how does a great game these days stand out for you with the sheer volume that you have to be reviewing it now?
I mean, it's actually quite difficult. You know, you've got to. For me, personally, a great game is something, if I'm playing it, and I mean, we're all old now, or old enough that we know we have to go to bed at a sort of reasonable time. We can't just play games until 4 a.m. every day. But if I play a game and I go to bed and I'm thinking about that game still, and I wake up in the morning and I feel like getting back to that game, then that game has gripped me. It's got something that makes you want to keep playing that game. And that's a good game, a game that you keep going back to is a good game. I mean, even if it's Apex or Call of Duty or whatever you keep going back to it because you enjoy it. So it's a good game, but it's very hard to get a game like that because of how quick games are coming out. And they follow the same sort of pattern. Let's say when Hades came out, roguelikes were just like left everywhere you looked. There was a roguelike game. It was hard to find something that wasn't a roguelike. So for Hades to be so popular or so good, it had to stand out above the rest because everything was a roguelike, no matter where you looked. And it makes everything taste like water, I guess, if you a little bit bland.
Yeah.
That's a valid point because obviously, with the sheer volume of things coming out, my headspace also is when like what Sock also mentioned, a very valid point. When you're not like one of the only, like, say, 3 shooter games out there, like Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, and Battlefield anymore. There's like, let's say, 10 shooters in a month now. You kind of, I think the headspace of a lot of studios and places are, well, we know how to make a good game nowadays because we've had enough trial and error now to know how to make a good game. But the thing is, when you have 10 good shooters coming out in a month, like, picking them apart is already difficult enough. So how do you go from a good shooter to great shooter? I think the thing is, they'd rather be satisfied with making a good shooter, knowing we'll have a perfectly satisfactory reception when it comes to launch, we'll have a perfectly satisfactory user base, and we can support that user base, and we'll call it a day, and we'll go on to our next project, and never think about this again. I don't think a lot of studios are coming at this point where it comes to, well, we want to make a great shooter. I have a great idea that might even disrupt things, the same way that Hades managed to disrupt things, the same way that Elden Ring managed to disrupt somewhat, what Souls-like games, because Souls-like games is the same, from the same cloth. It's like everything is a Souls-like game. So how do you tell it apart? But Elden Ring managed to do it, Hades managed to do it, but I don't think every single studio is out there thinking now with the same headspace saying, I want to make a great game, I know how to disrupt things. They don't want to take that risk anymore, because the risk of failure, they fear a lot more, I think, than back in the day. And that's it's kind of a
also
problem.
Maybe because, oh yeah, you go, Sak.
Something else we've got to consider is, in 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was much more difficult to be stuck in one fandom than it is now. I actually say right now, it's so much easier to be stuck in, okay, I only play Sony PlayStation games, or I only play Xbox games, because those fandoms have grown with such a fervor. Because I watched the Gaming Awards, and when Baldur's Gate won Game of the Year, there were legit Sony PlayStation fans that were angry about Spider-Man not winning, and and they were going like, I've never heard of Baldur's Gate, and everybody else was just like, how have you never heard of Baldur's Gate? It's been talked about on every social media platform for months. The only way you weren't able to hear of it is you stuck your head in the sand, and I think that's also starting to affect how games are perceived, because people are only playing games that they really want to play, and even if they release a game a year. It's why Assassin's Creed did so well for so long. They released a game a year until even their fans didn't want to play it anymore.
No,
that's the point I was going to bring up, is that you can release a good game and not a great game because you know that whether it's in a year's time or whatever time, in a short space of time, you're going to be releasing another game. So you're just going to keep good games rolling, or even mediocre games rolling that people will keep playing because of the whole fandom thing. But the company is not bothered in spending more time making it great, because they're like, oh, we just have to get this done and then we're going to move on to the next one, which the people will just buy anyway, because for some reason they just love it.
Yeah, well, let me ask.
And it's
Like, let me ask the two
yeah.
others. Something just popped in my head. Now, I might be wrong about you, Jude. I know Marty is like this, but I might be wrong about you, Jude. But as I believe, you two might be the ones that play a little bit more selectly with your games. Like, I know, obviously, there are some games you pick out that you like, and you'll play those games. But I might be wrong now, because I know, for example, when I'm talking about my cousin Marty, his games that he's loved over the past few years. He's played a few with me more. He's been open, obviously, to games, but the games that he has played with me and that he almost exclusively plays is Rocket League, Rainbow Six. He started the finals now recently, like with the debates, and we're starting the finals now, and like maybe here and there some other stuff. But his games are very select in terms of like in a year he'd probably play let's say 3-4 new games, if that. Now I don't know if you are the same, because obviously I have now seen you play Unbound. I don't know if that's like that was on your list for very long, or if you're trying out new games.
I am very selective with my games. I also do like to try out new games, but I also have certain lines that I would not cross. As in, I wouldn't play specific games, and unfortunately, Baldur's Gate is one of those games.
Turn-based one.
Yes, it's turn-based. I hate turn-based games.
Turn-based one, yeah.
They're honestly just not for me. And I've tried. I actually have tried to play like a turn-based game. I got a very old Final Fantasy. I tried playing it. I didn't enjoy it. So yeah, that was just not for me. But yeah, I do try and fiddle with games here and there. Because if you look at my Steam, what is it called again? A year recap. If I remember correctly, I played like 10 new games or something like that this last year. Yeah, my year in review. Yeah, I played like 10 new games. So I wouldn't necessarily say I am not open to new games. Rather, I am open to new games, but I'm also very selective. And yeah, I'm also very loyal to specific companies. But if they do release nonsense, then of course I'm gonna
No, but
speak
that's why
about that
I wanted
nonsense
to
and
hear
say,
from specifically you and Marty now, because I want to hear like from both of your sides. Tell me then, since you both are quite selective the games you play, and like obviously that's either just preference or that's just like you don't want to obviously go and spend money on a game that you're not sure about. I can understand that point, because we've all been burned by pre-orders. Let's just be honest. And we've all been burnt in different ways of that. So tell me, from you two's side, with the more select games that you play, how do you decide? Okay, I'm going to try this new game, like buy this new game, or how do you even decide? Okay, I want to try this new genre that I don't usually try. Like, what is it then? Does it take a great game for you to do that?
Not necessarily, no. So I would ask my good friend Located Dog for recommendation. I'll ask him for recommendations with regards to games, like specific games, and what he would recommend that I would play, and I'd move from there. But at the same time, I'd also look at games that are on sale, for example, and see if I might like this game, and of course I'd have to use real money to buy it. But thankfully, Steam has a refund feature. Shout out to them for that. And if I don't like the game, then I'll just refund it. So yeah, that's just like my mentality moving forward for a lot of the games. Because back then when I didn't have a lot of money, like I wouldn't be paying for games. You wouldn't catch me, you wouldn't catch me sleeping, man. I ain't paying for games. But now that I'm old and I'm able to pay for them by myself, then it becomes easier to pay for the game. But again, only if I can find value in the game, and that obviously comes from playing the game rather than just speculating and stuff like that. Also, looking at some reviews from like IGN or something, that really does help. So
It
yeah.
does. Marty, from your side, like I know also obviously also genres are also quite a big thing. So I want to also hear from your side. How do you decide?
So yeah, necessarily. So the first instance of actually where I kind of did some research into what I might play was back in 2021 when one of my friends at school played Modern Warfare 2,
Mm.
and he was so centered around the game and kind of invited me multiple times to just play with him and stuff. So I got a bit of researching, and I put a bit of research into it, and I found out that it actually looked pretty cool. And after playing Black Ops 2 and those older games a while, I didn't really know what to expect of Modern Warfare 2. But yeah, just my mom. Actually, funny story. It was just after school closed, and after getting my report card, my mom actually says fine, she bought me the game. I think it was 1,300 rand or something. PlayStation. So yeah, I bought it and started playing. It was actually pretty fun, but it did kind of get tired after he left the game and so on. So it mostly depends on multiplayer games. It depends on the friends playing with me. In this
That's a slow.
instance, you.
Yo.
I'll let you in the context just now. So Marty just basically, obviously know the topic. I know you have been preparing a little bit of a thing for us. So I'm gonna look forward to what you have to say. But Marty and Jude basically were just talking about they are two of our lovely folks who are more select gamers. They also are a bit more of a preference towards certain genres and like certain types of games, and they're also more, well, say cautious when it comes to purchasing games or when it comes to new games and stuff like that. So I asked them from both of their ends, like how do they cross that line of, okay, I'm gonna go invest my money, invest my time, invest my whatever into a new game. Does it have to be a great game? Do you have to be convinced it's gonna be a great game to do that nowadays? And from both of their sides, they more or less offer that thing. Like Jude mentioned, he gets his advice and his stuff from word of mouth from his friend, and my cousin Marty says he does a little bit of research, online, do all that stuff and like look into, is it a good game and stuff like that. I did want to mention, it did give a great little memory. How many of you remember that feeling of like you get your report card or your results, or like maybe you got the top 10 in school, like, oh look, mom, dad, I made top 10, I'm gonna get a game now for I remember that. That's how I got my 360, my Xbox 360. I think they told me you have to be top 10 in high school or something, and I got a 360. And I was like, oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah, dude.
No, that was a good feeling. But there was one thing that both of them mentioned that I was very keen also to get into, that I do think has a slight factor in this, and that's how they mentioned recommendations. Now, I don't know about you guys, but like back in the day when games came out, when like we had recommendation stuff, the internet was not the internet we know today, folks. Believe it or not, the internet used to be old and archaic to some of us. We had
Believe
to
it or not, if I didn't get a demo of it on the NAG magazine, I probably didn't
Yeah,
play it
you
or
didn't
buy
know
it.
about the game existed if it wasn't on the demo disc. No, it's like
Nope.
people don't understand. Like there were lots of games out there back in the day, but like I kid you not, when I was small, I didn't have a clue what Halo was. I didn't even have a clue of how to ask someone about Halo, because none of my friends had Halo. So I was like, well, I guess I don't know what a Halo is. It's fine. I'm not gonna buy a Halo if I don't know. And I mean,
Is
I
it
had an
fun?
Xbox. I never owned Halo, but I had an Xbox. But I didn't have anyone to ask. I was like, I don't know.
That's the South African effect. Don't worry, that's the South African effect.
So that's it's a funny point I bring across, because recommendations back then, and it's interesting to me that Jude still does that, but recommendations back then was usually either from word of mouth, or if you had like in place to trust in, let's say, a published magazine like the NAG Mag for South Africans, or the IGN Mag if you're overseas, or whatever it may be. But like you either you had very, I'd say less access, I guess, to what you really wanted the information out of to get a game. But like at the same time, we obviously had to make an effort with the internet to make things more accessible. That's the whole point of the internet, the accessibility of information, and a means of being able to communicate with anyone over the world. That's the actual point of the internet, not to post Rule 34 stuff, people, please. But the internet itself now is kind of, it's the term "jump the shark." When I say that, I kind of feel like in a lot of senses,
kind of.
the internet has jumped the shark of that, because now I feel like the inverse effect of that is happening, where we're getting too much information too quickly that we can't really process and internalize something. And what I mean by this is, if you look, let's say YouTube, Twitch, even gaming review websites nowadays. Like I asked Imagine a question a while back about like the sheer volume of reviewing and playing they have to do now. How does a great game stand out? How does a great game get translated to us quick enough, or how much of a drive does the internet have of us to try and buy a game now? But how much does it lose its relevance over time that quickly? Like Sock mentioned Hogwarts Legacy, and he mentioned Pokemon Violet, 2 games that came out a year ago that are barely talked about or relevant today. But like that's just the internet, because I mean Hogwarts Legacy came out less than a year ago, right? And the internet was gushing over that game for probably a month and a half, right? Month and a half, I think it was gushing over that game. They were like, oh yeah, the details, and it's so cool, it's like, it's Hogwarts, you can explore the whole wizarding world, it feels like the real deal. And the moment the Switch came, where the new next big thing, or the next big game came, it's like, whoosh, the wave of the internet just washed over it, and it was gone. It was gone. And it's not only, it's a little bit of it's a thing in your head as well, because it's something that I've as a human have tried so hard now to get rid of, but like there's a FOMO epidemic going on in the internet, and a FOMO epidemic going on in gaming. That's like, if you don't play this game now, it's gone forever. It's like, if you don't play this game now as a YouTuber, if you're into content creation and like getting all the clicks and stuff like that, if you don't play this game now and you try and play it a month later, no one's going to watch your video. If you don't review this game now,
not relevant.
Yeah, you're not going to get all the clicks on your review site. If you don't do this now, I
mean, I feel like it's different with like certain content creators, but like I think the vast majority is kind of just like that.
It's also, if with as a hopefully small content creator, we've also got to compete with bigger content creators, because like Carnage, he's basically finished the new Prince of Persia game. It only releases tomorrow. Got early access to it.
He's finished
it. What are you? How are you going to beat that? You're not going to beat that, because companies also give early access to people that want to play it. So everybody gets FOMO from that as well.
But they know it's a tactic they do now, because they give it to the big content creators. Everyone plays it. Everyone's gonna obviously, like what I said, like back then where our trust was in word of mouth or published magazine. Nowadays, our trust is in the internet, which is not a very reliable source. But like, if you watch your favorite content creator, and you're watching your favorite content creator enjoy a game, and they're recommending this game, how likely are you to go and purchase that game? But I'm not just talking about us. I'm talking about all the people out there. So if Carnage is playing that Prince of Persia game before release, and everyone's watching him, and everyone's seeing how much he enjoys the game, how much do you think those people are going to go snap, get those pre-orders and get those buys in for Prince of Persia right now? It's a weird thing. And then like, it's just gone and forgotten, unless you stand out truly today. And like, that's the problem. It's like, I don't know. It's, how do you approach that these days? Like, do you guys have any suggestions? How do you approach as a developer or as someone like that? How do you approach that these days to know that everything is moving at 100 miles? Like, let's just take a practical example. How did Larian do it? Well, how do we think Larian did it? Because I mean, Larian somehow pulled off the RPG.
I mean, I can tell you the story about Larian, but I'm gonna be talking for a while.
Well, like, I have my own thoughts
It was
about
the
that.
TLDR.
Yeah. It was the what?
The TLDR.
Yeah, give us the TLDR.
TLDR. Okay, so Larian Studios was actually created for the sole purpose of creating Baldur's Gate.
You see.
That was their sole purpose. All other previous games they've made was to make them successful enough to do two things: to buy the IP and then to make the game. That's why it made such a big splash for the RPG community specifically, because this was like their magnum opus.
That's
I mean,
true.
to be fair, their previous games have been good as well. It's not like they make terrible
like
games. You know?
Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, agreed. Turn-based games.
Yeah, it's so strange that game won Game of the Year, because all the previous games, like, I don't know about you, Imagine, but I've told people to like go play Divinity and they'll go watch like a video. It's like, what is this turn-based? I'm not playing. This is junk.
Yeah.
Well, that's Jude.
I've
What
told
is
so
this
many
turn-based
people to
stuff?
play
What is this
Divinity
turn-based
as
stuff?
well.
Jude is like, no, I don't want to play turn-based stuff.
No, you can literally do anything you want.
I've tried playing turn-based games. It just doesn't seem very free-flowing to me. Like, I've tried playing multiple. It's not just one.
I get it.
been
I mean,
more
like,
than
if
one
it's not
case.
for you, it's not for you, man. You can't stop someone.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is
but-
sadly very specific.
Yeah, kind of sucks. But actually, on that, I think what would really bring a large audience to carry on, like, consistently talk about a game is the game itself, and if it's a very, very good game. Take CDPR, for example. I know they've had a very, very, very bad reputation, and understandably so. The game was trash, didn't work. Well, trash, quote unquote. I enjoyed the game. I really, really loved the game. I loved the game. Cyberpunk was a good game, and I will stand 10 toes down. Cyberpunk was a good game. But there were issues. There were a lot of bugs, and I think that's why it stayed on people's minds and our mouths for so long, because of the prevalent bugs and issues on the game. And yes, it was a constant discussion, not for the right reasons, of course. And it was sort of like a precedent for a lot more games now. People are just going to release a game even before it's complete or anything like that, and people are just going to continuously talk
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It sort of became like a precedent, an unfinished game released, we'll just add patches later on. People will still buy the game. It's whatever. And
There's no greater story than that than No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. No Man's Sky came back with a bang. It started off bad, but rocky, and eventually came back and became a very, very good game. 100% agree with you there. But yeah, just Cyberpunk. I just wanted to speak about that. And yes, it was a constant thing that people spoke about, not for the right reasons, of course, but over the years, they've obviously released a lot of updates, a lot of patches, and a lot of stuff. A lot of DLCs and stuff like that. And Phantom Liberty won Game of the Year, and I think it's also a tribute. Sorry, not Game of the Year. Apologies, not Game of the Year. Like,
It should have.
Best
It should
DLC.
have.
Sorry,
It should
best
have.
DLC. Best.
DLC.
Yeah. Best. No. Expansion. Yes. Sorry. Best expansion to a game or something, and Labor of Love on Steam or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stand with my statement. It was a very good game, and the reason it was spoken for and spoken about, and on people's minds constantly, obviously for the bugs, but also a very good game, and CDPR never stopped trying and putting effort into that game. It's much like The Witcher, like The Witcher.
Yeah, that is something that we've got to consider, because I was there. I know Imagine was there too for The Witcher Freeze launch. That almost tanked because of the bugs. As legendary as it is now, and CD Projekt Red did the same thing with Cyberpunk. Like, I knew it the moment people said it.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't you find it weird that a game, I'm using finger quotes here, is so bad that it needs to be cancelled, but it doesn't get cancelled? Like, Doesn't that just show that both The Witcher and Cyberpunk are, at its core, good games? Like that,
Yeah.
you've
I
said
think
it.
so.
Yes.
I agree with you. When I played Cyberpunk when it first released, I thought it was a good game as well. Fine, it had bugs, but every game that we've played since the 90s has had bugs in it. Like it's not a bug, it's a feature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how we were brought up.
Back then it was.
Like so. Exactly. So it's a good game, and it had a few issues, and the fact that CDPR just had the balls to be like, "Cool, we messed up a little bit, and we're going to fix it," and then they did fix it. You know, I think it just got painted in a bad light because of maybe a little bit of cancel culture, just trying to make everything seem more terrible than it really is. Because 90% of the people that have played Cyberpunk on day one will tell you they enjoyed the game.
Yeah, well, I did. I will
I
put my hand
agree.
up. I did.
Yeah.
I played it on a PS4, and I still enjoyed it. I
that's probably
felt
the
like I was
worst
playing
one.
on blurry
Yeah, that was the
settings.
most stable one.
I thought I was playing on the blurriest setting possible. I thought like you put, you know, when you accidentally put data saver on your YouTube video, and I was like squinting like
Yeah.
this, like, oh yeah, this game's great, real great game. I enjoyed the hell out of it still. But actually,
Yeah.
there's a litmus test we can do. There is a litmus test because I think we are all aware of the hype surrounding Cyberpunk, and I want people to understand. Remember, Cyberpunk has been teased since 2013. I think that first trailer dropped in 2013, somewhere around there. So we're talking about a 7-year
Yeah.
hype train leading up to that release.
Yeah.
And obviously now the labor of love, as Steam likes to mention it, over the past 3 years. But now it comes a true litmus test, because I know my cousin Marty was aware of that. But I know he has also not played Cyberpunk during those days, like how I toughed it and how others may have toughed it out, like Jude or I don't know if you also played it during launch, Imagine, or Sock.
No.
But
To be
you've
honest
heard
with
the
you, I
stories.
don't actually enjoy that genre.
Well, as I
Oh,
said,
really?
that is not my favorite. But now the true litmus test comes. Earlier last year, my cousin played Cyberpunk for the very first time. And now you have to remember, he played Cyberpunk after post 2.0. He's played Cyberpunk after all of that. So his experience of Cyberpunk was, let's say, the intended experience. Now comes the true litmus test. Mr. Marty, how memorable was Cyberpunk for you as a game that was touted to be one of the, well, generational one? Silence speaks 1,000 words. Marty, are you still there?
So,
Based.
I you could repeat that question.
So Cyberpunk, you obviously only played it really after
Yeah.
all of the bug fixes.
After
You saw the
2.0.
best, and you saw that you're on the
Yeah.
PC. So you got the best of the best, the cream of the
Yes.
crop, the best graphics, the best quality version out there, and you got it after everything has been remedied almost. So, as a game,
Correct.
how memorable was Cyberpunk for you after what it was hyped up to be?
Well, okay, so firstly, back in 2020, I did nag on my dad to buy it for me on a PS4, but looking back, I'm really glad I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So, but now after playing on a PC, I must admit it was really, really good in terms of story. It did feel a bit, how can I say it? I didn't play the most difficult difficulty. I did feel the missions were pretty short most of the time. And yeah, there was a lot of side jobs. I did a lot of side job and stuff. But overall, I'm pretty impressed. And the ending was pretty good too. Well, one of the endings.
One of the endings.
So yeah, I must say I really did enjoy it.
Now, I don't know, like that's kind of also the other part of the coin is like maybe it's the hype doing that, maybe it's us doing that. Like for a game that's supposed to be
Yeah,
generational.
ask him again in like 3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say ask him maybe again in 3 years when we look back on Cyberpunk. But also, I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know if you're hyping something up to be generational, something that's changing the landscape of gaming, and I'm like, I don't think you want the response to be. I must say, it was a pretty good game. I was really impressed by the game. The side jobs were quite good.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the response that you were aiming for. But that's game. That's the community at some points. Like I've seen that also before. Maybe it's us buying into the whole thing way too much. I think it's an obvious thing. Like hype for games needs to be. We just need to slow it down a little bit. But it's what I.
But it's because of that thing that Suck brought up, or that you've all brought up. There's 10 to 15 of the same game
Yes.
coming out
Yeah.
right now. If you're not
Yeah.
hyped up, your game's not going to get picked up.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the problem. They have so many tactics now of doing it. But the thing is, I think short term, it's a brilliant tactic. I can tell you now, short term, it's the best thing you can do. You get all that money in, you meet your quotas, you meet your goals, you get your reception that you wanted to launch, you're happy chappy, and you move on. Long term, I think that game's forgotten. I think that game is just like left in the aether for most of it, for the most part. So that's the other thing as well, the other side of the thing. Now the other thing that I also want to tie into that is that maybe by design, because now we said obviously it's safer to make a good game and riskier to make a great game, and no one wants to take that leap of making a great game when they know they are capable of making a good game. Do we think that's maybe also by design, by the way they tied it in, because since we have entered the sphere of almost everything as a game as a service, if they know by design, obviously at the time they're making the game, most of the consensus is, okay, we're making a game as a service, right? And we're going to make a good game. We're going to make a game with fairly, some mechanics, people can get into it easily. It's a pretty accessible game. Maybe we make a crossplay, whatever. And then, we have all these seasons, I have skins, we have these rewards and stuff they do. We have a game as a service. And as long as we provide support somewhat along the way, they'll enjoy the game for many years to come. And it'll be a good game, and we'll close our doors and be happy. Do we think that design kind of ties in also into, like, I'm not obviously saying every live service game out there strives to be just okay. I think there are genuinely ones out there that's trying to be the top of the top, and live service sometimes makes sense for them. But I think people have used it now as a cop-out. They know what live service can do. They know the profit live service can generate. They know the model now well enough to say, we can make a good game out of that, and it'll be fine. It'll make us money, and we'll move on.
When it comes to games as a service, I think we've got to take a look at like two sides of the same coin, because you get Call of Duty, which I would say is the bad side, because
Yes.
they release a new game every year, and each new game is a game as a service, and there's no more story to them. Like,
Good night.
there were some streams last year that were literally longer than their entire campaign. It's just like that's sad. That's
Well,
very
according
sad.
to that,
But then-
what was it? Sorry, I just want to say, according to Christopher Judge's speech at the Game Awards, his was longer than Call of Duty's campaign as well. Okay, continue, Sock.
I think actually it was, yeah. But then, and I know not everybody's going to agree with me on this, but like I would actually prop up Fortnite as a good example.
No, it is.
Because right now, you've got, I mean, like Fortnite's a free game, and you can currently play basically Guitar Hero, Rocket League, and actually
The
Battle
Lego.
Royale and a survival game, the Lego survival game on it, and it's all for free. And they only do it because they know they've got to keep people coming back. But even people that hate Fortnite have played Fortnite.
Yeah,
Not me.
I've played Fortnite. I was there. I was there when the
I've
OG
never
map
touched it.
returned. I was there when the OG map returned.
Oh, I hate it.
No, I
I've
will.
never touched
I will say
Fortnite.
one thing about Fortnite. I will say one thing about Fortnite that it does, because it does live service really well. The reason I don't like battle royales, for all the people out there, I make it very clear in my YouTube and in everything that I dislike battle royales.
You're just
And-
not good at them.
No, I'm not good at them. No, it's true. It's true, bro. It's true.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
I feel like when it comes to PvP survival, I like a different type of PvP survival. I don't like the whole idea of keeping us, drawing us together over a map, and having more or less the same gameplay, same results and stuff like that come out. It kind of feels hypocritical when you say like the same thing. Oh, but you can say the same thing about a shooter, because shooter games are all the same anyway. You just do the same tactics or whatever. But I have a weird thing when it comes to survival, quote unquote survival games with PvP and stuff. I don't like PvP survival out of its standpoint already. I like to have a more PvE survival. That's just the genre I like more. And now the PvP survival, it always kind of feels like you're forcing the PvP. That's literally my standpoint of battle royales. That's the literal reason I can't get around it. But what I do like about Fortnite and the way it does things with live servers, especially, Fortnite did a thing for years now that it's been especially good at. And I mean, if you've played Fortnite long enough, you can testify. So Marty can testify definitely to this too, because we were there for a lot of seasons. But like, environmental storytelling is something that they've excelled at using live service. So when I say that, it's like that's literally changing on the map, but the story coming through the changing on the map. So season 1 of Fortnite, you get your base map, you get your OG map, stuff happens like that. Season 2 comes around, there's some new locations, same thing, same old. Season 3 comes around, there's suddenly some cutscenes about a thing happening, and you see whatever in the sky, like a cube or a rift or something in the sky that's happening. And by the time season 5 runs around, the rift has actively changed the map through storytelling, where it's like rifted some areas, or it's changed like the loot lake changed over a while. Epic Games use their live service seasons to tell a story about an evolving map and an evolving thing, which I think is very creative. I think it's genuinely a creative way to make live service actually feel different and actually to progress, well, the story going forward. Maybe I don't like the current state of the map because I think it's just a little bit much. It feels a little bit like could be a bit more basic, like the fundamentals and stuff like that, back to the OG. But I do applaud what they did, because it's something like, for example, the Elder Scrolls Online or Destiny, in my opinion, did not do at all. And those are 2 live service games that have been going on eons as well. And I feel like when I go from one season to another in that game, there's a little bit of a cutscene, and there's a little bit of more missions, and the name of the season is different. And that's it. That's why, for me, the live service is, if you're going to do live service,
like 1 or 2 cool guns.
Yeah, you get 1 or 2 cool guns, and everyone grinds for 50 hours, man, and they all use it in multiplayer to dome you. Oh my gosh, that's another thing in Destiny. I'll never play Destiny again. Please, if you ever see me play Destiny,
has gotten toxic.
Someone DOS me if I play Destiny again. I put 300 hours into the game for nothing. Someone DOS me if I ever go back into that. But yeah, no, my gripe of live service is, live service, I understand, is like you want to have a continuous cycle for your game. You want to extend the life cycle for your game. You want to go in and give your users more content and more stuff like that. But that's you're not putting in the same effort as what you did in the beginning. Or at some point, the effort's going to drop. Look at Rocket League, for example, now. Yeah. Rocket League's been a live service game for 9 years now, right? Going on 9 years. 2015 it came out. Have you noticed how badly the live service has gone in like the past year for Rocket League? For those of us who've played, Marty played Rocket League. Jude, I don't know how much Rocket League you still play, but like,
not very often.
Have you dropped off in the past year or so, or just like?
No, I haven't touched it. I've seen my friends play, but I haven't touched it.
Well, I think myself and Marty can attest to the past year of live service in Rocket League has been awful compared to like what the past few years we've been there has been. It's the thing of like when do you that's the trap I always feel about live services. Why can't they just feel like something like God of War Ragnarok? They recently did it, and I think Slow can also mention it because he's played it now. God of War Ragnarok was your standard run-of-the-mill single-player game, right? God of War Ragnarok had like a sequel to a story of God of War 2018, and in my opinion, not as good as 2018, but still a very good game. Perfectly fine mechanics. Its combat is fantastic. Its graphics are great, and it has more Norse mythology and stuff like that. Like, it's great stuff. And what did they do? They released a new DLC called Valhalla a month or so ago. They released it for free. And I think, Slow, what do you think about the DLC and the game in general?
I think it's pretty good, honestly. I think it's almost like the perfect ending to the Norse mythology side of God of War. Even though I feel like it didn't really need it, it's still nice to at least have more screen time with Kratos, and then also Freya as well, and obviously Mamiya. I think that's really cool, and I don't want to spoil it because if you haven't played it, I mean, it's definitely something to treat yourself towards.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect way to end off the new or the current era of the new
Kratos.
God of War, and it's pretty exciting to see what will happen next. I
And
thought it was great though. It was
yeah,
great.
and the last reason I bring up Ragnarok as a game is I don't know if there are any differing opinions from you guys out there. I thought Ragnarok was I think it was a great game, and I will say the word great. I think it was a great game. I think it did all of what it needed to do right. As I said, maybe it didn't reach the heights of 2018, but that's no matter. It's still a great game. And what happened last year? It lost to Elden Ring in the Game of the Year race, because those were the two big contenders for Game of the Year. Or well, 2 years ago now, 2022, sorry. 2022, it lost the Game of the Year race. And do you see anyone still talking about God of War Ragnarok over Elden Ring? Like, I see people talk about Elden Ring because that's also a truly great game, but do you see anyone talking about God of War Ragnarok now?
Personally,
No.
I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that have played Ragnarok, because most of the people that I know are PC players. So hearing them
Yeah, I
talk
was just about to say the most often I see people talking about it is asking when the port comes to PC.
The port, I was like, when that
Exactly.
port coming over? I'm going to start emulating that.
Exactly. So I would think most people wouldn't have gotten access to it, besides you, of course, because you have a PS5 and everything, so it's much easier for you to play the game. But for people like us who normally play on PC, it's just like, well, okay, God of War is there, but freaking what's the name of the game? Elden Ring. I can play it whenever. So I think that's another reason why accessibility. Accessibility would also be another reason why I think people aren't necessarily able to speak about God of War like that.
There's also something interesting happening here, and I'm not aware. I don't know how much you know of the game, EMD, but like the console and PC and Xbox and Switch, that divide is also creating different types of memory loss, because in the circles that I'm in, Elden Ring has long been forgotten. It's like, okay, we don't know what they're doing. FromSoft is doing something. We don't care. But if you've got Game Pass, you're actually talking about a different Souls game. You're talking about Lies of P.
Oh,
That's
yes,
for
of
free on
course.
both
Yeah.
Xbox and PC, and that's like the Souls game everybody's talking about right now. But like I'm noticing, especially from my PlayStation friends, that they're not really that aware of it, even though it is available on the console.
Yeah, but you did mention the console divide. I do agree with that in some way. The exclusivity that some consoles have do create that sort of thing. But then we could argue that, like, it's weird, like you said, it has grown a lot in the last few years, but even back then in the day, I was joking around, like saying I didn't know what a Halo was, but clearly people knew back then what a Halo was, because Halo 2, if you go back, Halo 2 is regarded as one of the most iconic games of all time. So is Gears of War. So is maybe the first Forza or whatever. Like, those are all Xbox exclusive games, and you can go on the same side of the coin and go look at PS exclusive games back then, and they'll probably also be regarded as the greatest games of all time. But now like I said, the memory loss maybe of the growth of these console tribalisms and stuff has also burned our memory. But like I said, that's the other thing. If you look back, Halo 2 was about 20 years ago, 2004, right? That's also Half-Life 2, that's also World of Warcraft, that's also the first Gears of War. That was a big year. But do you think the quality of games back in 2004 is the same as the quality games in 2024? Do you feel like...
No.
Oh, that's like the games of today is about a billion times better. Because like people like to be like, yeah, back then things were better, but I promise you, as somebody that plays retro games, like I remember the first Harry Potter. I know this is a weird example, but the first Harry Potter game. You know those, right? Like they were on console, they were on
Yeah.
PC, they were on everything, right? It
Yeah.
felt like hours that you were playing those games. I played up to 4 recently, and it took me to play up to there about 10 hours to play all of them. Genuinely, it was that fast.
Jeez.
No, I think you
And
like
that wasn't that. I was like collecting everything along the way as well.
there's nostalgia
I mean,
glasses, man.
well, it's nostalgia, and I think also it's probably the fact that a lot of companies nowadays have access to better resources, so you can make more diverse maps, you can include more expansive options, like as opposed to back then. And back then, I feel like stories were more intricate, and you'd feel more, you'd enjoy the game more, you'd have this sort of connection with the game and be like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this game, this character. I relate to this character, and it's not to say that games nowadays don't do that, but a lot of games seldomly do that.
Well, I
Because
think
quite recently I finished
yeah, that's what I got.
quite recently I finished Call of Duty Cold War and Modern Warfare. I haven't played those for a long time, but like Modern Warfare and Cold War, and I don't know, I just felt like I was just playing the game for the sake of playing the game. I didn't necessarily have any connections with any of the players specifically, but I do remember one of the NPCs. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but one of the NPCs did something during the game, and I was like, wow, shout out to that guy, because it was a very honorable moment. But other than that, I was just playing the game and I was shooting guys. That's it. And I was like, yeah, you coming? Boom, boom, boom. That's it. Nothing other than that. Just yeah, mindless shooting, I guess.
Well, I want to point out the irony also in that, because now the other thing, one quick tangent I want to just quickly mention is like I like this area of gaming also more for indie games, because I think indie developers finally have all the damn resources they need to make like games that they have of their wildest dreams, because now they have Unreal, Unity, all those lovely little
I
there
mean,
was so
the
much more.
The most on topic and recent example of that is Lethal Company. That was
Yes.
made by one guy.
Yes,
Exactly.
Like that's
And he
insane.
sold like what, 52 million?
Yeah, he's probably a millionaire now.
No,
Yeah.
he's set for life. But like, that's the thing. Like, I think back then in the day, like, it's kind of an ironical point now that you mentioned that the story was not so great for Cold War and Modern Warfare and stuff like that. But like, I think back in the day, like gaming, gaming was at a point of like we see it in technology as well. Gaming was at a point of rapidly evolving back in the day. It's kind of like I think it looks like kind of like a curve where gaming was rapidly evolving back in the day. Like we're talking about a few years later. It still is to this day. I just don't think it's very visual for us nowadays. But like back in the day when you like compare, let's say Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2, those games were 6 years apart. I could swear you'd think it's generations apart, those games. Of how like that evolved just in that short space of time. And you talk about the technological innovations of going forward, the Black Ops games or the Arkham games that pushed the Unreal Engine 3 to its absolute limits. You're talking about games that literally took the technological stuff they knew and innovated it beyond what anyone knew at the time. And then I think the shift of focus, or the shift of focus came around the modern time, because like I don't know, like I'm not really big in PC gaming, so I might be wrong. But the biggest mind blown moment I remember in the most modern time is ray tracing. That's like the most biggest mind blown thing. There might be something more like that. That's the last thing I remember.
Yes, the first thing I remember was when I picked up the NAGS CD and there were demos from NVIDIA showing fluid dynamics. Like that was genuinely one of those like, holy cow, graphics cards can now do actual fluid. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
But something.
Yeah. No, sorry, go on.
Something we also, as a PC gamer, I know console gamers probably don't think of it like this, but like the fact that we're always online now makes it harder for games to fail.
No, it's true.
Because if a game releases, like we said earlier, with the patches and everything for CD Projekt Red's games, they just patch it the next day. There's day one patches and everything like that. Or if a game fails, like Call of Duty, in my opinion, that I know the fanboys probably mean it didn't fail, but it's not a good game. It doesn't look good, right? They know next year they're gonna this year they're gonna release another one, and people are gonna forget about it because it's fast and it's instantly downloaded. But in 2005, 2006, as a PC gamer, if a game we bought was broken and there wasn't a patch with a magazine for that game,
What cheat
that
code?
game is broken. It's broken forever.
Yeah.
Like
But
I
it's a
bought,
feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, like,
feature,
I
man.
bought-
Come on.
I remember buying Tomb Raider 2,
Mm.
right? Back in like
Yeah.
2006, 2007. And
Yeah.
the disc game broken. I couldn't save.
Oof. Yeah.
I never played that game. Played it. Because there was no patch for it. It's broken.
Mm.
Jeez.
I do want to pick on the young gamer in our current peanut gallery over here, because as we mentioned, we are talking about games that were released when he wasn't born. So I do wanna kind of
Yeah.
I want to pick on him because like for us now, that's our great games that we remember. That's our great games we live by. And maybe there is a modern game for you that you consider being truly great, truly up there with your best games of all time. For me, I do try it. I have a lot of modern games. I will name some of them for you, but I have a lot of modern games that are my favorite games of all time that I consider the greatest games of all time. I think my top 5 is probably not even older than 5 years, because that's how I kind of view it. I kind of view it as we need to. That should be the standard. We should be pushing to be the best every single year. That's what I view gaming should be like. That's what I view we should all like strive towards. But so my top 5 just quickly is Death Stranding, Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk. Then they know order. Yeah, I'm not trying to get an order. What was the other one? But like that's already a top 3 of like those games that haven't come out and that were like released in the last 5 years. And then there's like 1 or 2 others that'll come to mind now. But like that's what my mindset is. But now I want to ask the younger member, because his nostalgia is not as blinding as ours, because his nostalgia is not as old as ours. So I do. He mentioned Spore, which I do know is one of his favorite games of all time, because that's one of the first games we played together on a really crappy laptop, which was very funny. But I do want to also ask him now, do you view the modern gaming that you play nowadays, do you view that as your greatest games you've ever played, or do you still hang on to like Spore or another old game like that? So, oh, those games were so good back then. Never gonna make them like that again. Call of Duty Black Ops 1. All those.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. So with regard to let's say a game is based on single player and storytelling, like action adventure, like let's say Death Stranding in this sense. Those I do have to say are a bit better than what I played when I was younger.
Yes.
But in a sense of, remember when I think it was 2012 when you got your first Xbox, we played Minecraft for the first time.
It was when I got
And
into the top 10, yes? When you played Minecraft, yes?
I mean, just that first time I actually played the game was really like a golden memory in my history of gaming. So, and even in 2014, 2016 we played 2016 we played Black Ops.
Black Ops 1, yeah.
A Sunday after church every Sunday. Like, that was so fun. So
it's interesting. It's like
still pretty much hang on to that.
No, because I was gonna say, like, regardless of age, I think as Imagine and some of us also mentioned, we associate a lot of our greatest games with the memories those games also made. But it's fine. I understand completely. I would do the same, because as others have also mentioned, I think Jude also mentioned it, the fact that we're now moving away from LAN sessions. We're moving away from split screen sessions. We're moving away from literally sitting in a single file queue behind a screen watching someone play a single player game. The fact that we're moving away from that and we're going to an always online mentality and community and stuff like that, it's removing those memories from us and like telling us we need to rethink of how we think of greatest games. Or, well, boxing us basically into how we're thinking of the greatest games. It's a really, I think it's a complex thing. I think like over the next, let's say 10 years, when we've properly gone into this whole phase of like, oh, everything's online. Because I mean, let's be honest, it's still pretty young for a lot of us, especially us that has more memories and more years playing split screen and LAN stations than like the online stuff. I think go 10 years in the future now, and our perspectives or our perceptions and opinions and stuff may change in terms of what we view as a great or the greatest games. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Do you feel you're going to change the way you perceive a greatest game, given that everything we know now?
Probably not, because I've learned to kind of just, tame the expectations. I also don't pay attention to like game reviews and whatnot, because it's like that's just one person's opinion or view on it, and it's like, I mean, who cares?
Except
like,
Nags.
Cares?
Nags is the truth. Don't worry about
it. True. But I don't know. I mean, I recently just played like Metal Gear Solid 3. I bought it, and I was like, bro, I haven't played this game in like years. And I was like, it's finally time to replay this childhood game. Played it, finished it like 13 hours later, and I was like, dude, this game is aged like fine wine. It is so good, man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
It's good to have this as well.
I don't know. I mean,
I think that
I
must
don't
be
look too
harder
deep
to
into it.
find because there's just too many. But a great game for a person
like,
will be a great game for a person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm down to try any game, like, at all, and then there'll be, like, some tiny, like, massive elements that will be like, this game is actually really cool. I like it. Same with Ghost Runner. Like, that game was just, it was fucking amazing, dude. It was so fun.
It was amazing. No, I mean, like, in the last year, I think I showed my PlayStation Wrapped anyway in the Discord, in the NAG Discord, but like, I think my year clocked out at about 96 games played for the whole year. I truly tried to make an effort of going into every possible genre I could. I truly tried to tell myself, listen, maybe I'm missing out on the greatest games because I'm locking myself to all of these thoughts of all of these like stuff. And I didn't like, this wasn't out of FOMO. The 96 games that I played wasn't like the latest and greatest that they claim. It was old games, new games, different genres, whatever the lay of the land was. But like, I generally tried it, and like, I feel like I'm finally also starting to get a better understanding of how I'm going to view greatest games going into the future. I feel like I'm going to start. I still want to perceive them as like the latest game should be the greatest game. That's just how I think technology should be. It's an evolution. That's not to knock on the old games. That's not to knock on the old games at all, because the old games are the reason we should have the standard. If Half-Life 2 in 2004 is still regarded as one of the technologically most innovative games of all time, now, 20 years later, there's clearly been a problem because we should have surpassed the standard a long time ago. It's nothing against Half-Life 2. That's a monumental.
Have you played Half-Life 2 recently?
Not recently, no.
I mean, it's not a new game.
No,
it's fine.
Well, 2004 was a new game.
For 20 years ago, it
20 years ago, it was
cool
fine.
Things, yeah.
Like something I've noticed people forget is just how much the small things have improved. Like, we think shooters today have the same kind of controls that they had 20 years ago. Like, but if you go from Counter-Strike 2 now and you go play the original Counter-Strike, you're going to immediately notice this is Yeah, 1.6 is like you can't play 1.6 with modern stuff. You'll suck.
Need a rollerball mouse.
No, that's
Yeah, you usually do.
But I think it's as you mentioned, it is supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be the small things that improve the quality of life things, anything they can think of that they should be improving. I just feel like they should not feel scared to surpass the standard. I don't want every single person, despite there being 10 shooters a month, despite there being the hype, despite there being the FOMO, despite being everything, nothing should tell you to stop pushing to be the greatest. That's what Baldur's Gate 3 did. I know Larian, as Sock gave the TLDR now, Larian was invented to make Baldur's Gate 3. But what happened when Baldur's Gate 3 did all those wonderful things? It surpassed every single expectation. It won the Game Awards rightfully won the Game Awards for its outstanding achievement in RPGs, outstanding like mechanics wise for RPGs and everything out there. And what did the developers do on Twitter or X or whatever? They lamented Larian Studios, like, how could you do this? Now no one's gonna think of our games anymore. Everyone's gonna drag us through the mud. You've cursed us forever for making a game that's too good. It's too good, man. Why? Why you should see that as challenge accepted, not it's too good. Why is that? Why is that the mindset? Is kind of like what I'm thinking. Why are we?
Because developers are lazy. They are lazy.
That's like
Money
what I'm
is the
thinking,
only
like-
way of their motivations.
That's what I'm thinking. Like
it's
why?
important to remember what some developers do, because some developers have become, they churn out a new game every year and they forget about it. But then we've also got to remember there are other developers out there. Like Bethesda does not churn out a new game every year. They churn out updates and stuff here and there. People are very hard on poor Starfield, but for like people say, like for a Bethesda game, that thing is fantastic. And it's the same with quite a few other games. Like, ironically enough, Blizzard, as bad as that company's internal stuff is, I can't actually remember the last time they released a game that had bugs.
It's not
They
bugs
haven't
that's the
released a game
problem.
in, like,
They just-
17
I mean, they
years.
released Diablo 4,
And
and
Overwatch
before
2.
that, Overwatch 2, which, apart from server issues, the game itself actually runs.
No, the game runs. The problem with Blizzard is they can't make a good game anymore. But that's a digression.
Yeah.
Bro.
Hopefully that'll change with Xbox at the helm.
Hopefully.
Oh, dude, pass the copium, my guy.
Okay. But yeah. So wait, we were talking about how you're gonna see stuff in the future.
Yeah. I was about to say, I've got an
Sorry,
answer
no,
for that. Like,
I realized you didn't say it.
Over the last few years, I've had to like change how I play games, because it used to be I'll just play whatever is there and easy. Because it's like playing a single player game when I'm going into an office every day to deal with people. It's how I used to relax. But when I stopped going into an office, that started changing, because I was like, well, I'm not seeing anybody for weeks at a time. It's like legit. There were 4 or 5 day streaks where I didn't speak out loud. My voice went away at times. So I had to break them in 3 different things. Like, there's the games that I play on my own in front of my computer for fun, and these are things like Hogwarts Legacy. It will be Baldur's Gate, and it's Divinity Original. It's going to be Nightingale as well. But then there are games where I explicitly play them for their social aspect. It's going to become more prevalent in the future for me and hopefully everybody else, especially as things become more online. Like, I want to get a Nintendo Switch OLED, or the next Nintendo Switch that's probably going to be announced next month sometime, just to play Super Mario Party for no other reason. Just because that game is extremely social. Then there's the third category that I put games into, which I think we all do, is games that I'll watch someone else play on Twitch or YouTube, but I'll never play that thing myself.
That's Souls-like games for me. I can't play a Souls-like
For
game.
me, it's yeah. Souls-like game, pretty tough.
Well,
Not really. I mean, in the beginning, yeah, sure, but once you like get the hang of like, the rhythm of the game and whatnot, then you're fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's just how it is for me. But
Yeah, to each their own. Like, I'm trying Elden Ring. I'm trying Elden Ring.
Yeah, Elden Ring is fun. It's fun. Like I love Elden Ring. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent. I love Elden Ring for its story, but like I've really started loving Lies of, because Lies of P, he moves fast, and I like that. No other Souls game they move fast.
Oh yes,
Lies
I
of
need
P
fast
is
movement
really
as
Bloodborne.
well. I struggle with the no sprint or things. Oh no.
I loved Bloodborne as well because it was also fast. Like I remember playing Dark Souls 2 just before Bloodborne, and I hated every single second.
uh, from your side, Jude.
I have a question for you,
Yes,
BMB.
yes. What is the question?
Because I know I know you're seeing them on PlayStation, on the PlayStation Store. But how do you actually think sales are affecting how quickly forget things? Because at the start of last year, Hogwarts Legacy released for what, 1,100 rand? I bought it for 600 at the end of the.
What I think is, well, obviously, I think the age of where we should be buying games at launch and pre-order is a little bit of a bygone age. When there was a physical copy thing, sure. When you were rushing to the video game store to make sure you had yours with a name on it to collect it there, sure. I don't think it's a thing anymore, or should be a thing anymore in the online age. I think sales, when you bring a thing down, like Steam does it really well. I think Steam does an excellent job of it. They always have a great sale. They always try to have a lot of different types of games there on sale. It depends. Like I said, I don't have a lot of Steam purchases, but every time I've been on, I've seen a Steam sale. But it's weird. Like I know it's also with all these subscriptions. Like you mentioned Xbox Game Pass, how everyone's chatting about Lies of P because it's on the Xbox Game Pass. I feel like when it comes to PlayStation and other things, I don't know. Like it's I don't know how much you can sway someone. Obviously, everyone's gonna like a freebie. Like I'm not gonna say no to a freebie. I can just download it, and if I don't like it, I can delete it. There's literally no regret tied to that because it's a freebie. But I don't know. Like I think in some ways it can help. Surely, especially with multiplayer games.
I mean, if you want a quick and dirty example of it, just after they announced the expansion for Cyberpunk, you know what happened to Cyberpunk on Steam?
Did it go on sale?
Best-selling game.
It went on, it became the best-selling game because it went on sale. I think at one point I saw it for like 200 rand.
wait, no way. There's no way. 200.
But there were
bruh,
there were a
paid
lot
full
of
price
things
for
going
that
right
game,
for
man.
Cyberpunk, and the same space, I will admit, 2.0 just came out, and it like fixed everything almost and revamped the game. At that same time, I remember the article saying that Cyberpunk finally had I think a positive overall review on Steam, and I mean that's after you had to cancel out all of those negative reviews in the beginning at launch. So that's the first time Cyberpunk had a positive launch on Steam, which gives it a better image. And obviously, Phantom Liberty came out. Their first, the first and only expansion. I think things turn out, but I do think sales can make a difference. I do think things like this can make a difference. It's just
true.
it's just like a roll of the thing. But yeah, it's a difficult thing to gamble with because do you reckon they will still be around by the time you have it on sale, whatever? Do you reckon they're not gonna have moved on by the time you're gonna go on sale? That thing, it's so I'm thinking like at launch,
I don't know. I think it's
you should be running
50-50.
out the gates. You should be out the gates trying to be like capture this audience out the gates when you're at launch and whatever. But maybe there's other ways. Marty.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Jude. Yes, you were still saying about the future of yours.
Oh no, I was just about to say that I think, and this is purely from my own personal experience, is that I would want to play a game, but I'd look at the price tag and be like, no, see that? That's not for me. No, I'll wait for a sale, even if it takes like 2 years to come out. I'll wait for a sale and then get the game. A good example, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I really, really wanted to play the game, like really, really badly, but I at the time I didn't have the money to pay for the game, so I waited for a good sale, and when the sale came, I bought it immediately. So I think sales
Can help.
will continue to help. Not can, will. They do help a lot of companies continue to increase the player base. And if you look at, I forgot the exact game, but I saw a post about the user base increasing for a specific game when they were on sale. So yeah, I do honestly think that sales will help a game. And
Well, that should be
yeah,
the
and I
case.
think that yeah.
And for the future, how do you feel like? How do you feel like you're gonna feel about the great games of the future? Hopefully, the great games of the future.
Well, obviously I'm getting older, and with that, I have more money to put aside and spend on specific games. So for the upcoming games, I do think that I will be more willing to buy them at launch time. But for people that are younger than me, or people that aren't that don't have the same, well, they don't have the same opportunity as me, then I think they'll still continue to look for sale. So future games, 100%. Future great games, 100%. They'll be on sale. Take an example for right now. Hogwarts Legacy. It was on sale on Steam for like 50%, somewhere around there, and it's still a very good game. It's still a very
It
good game.
is.
But exactly, so, and it's on sale right now, and was on sale. Excuse me, was on sale, and I think because of that sale, the user base did increase. So future games, I think sales are still definitely going to help, and of course, I'll still buy games on sale. I'm not crazy. I'm not gonna buy a game full price where I know in a couple of years' time it's gonna be on sale. But if the game
Yeah,
is really great,
you might
then that's a
consider
different story.
it. Well,
100%,
let's
100%.
let's talk about the guy who's about to enter that phase. Definitely a future where he's going to enter that phase of like, oh, he's going to be able to afford his own games now. He's going to be able to, decide, what he wants to pay for, what he wants to not. Mr. Marty, I know you're obviously going to enter that phase now into great games. Do you feel like you're gonna change your opinion on great games, or are you gonna attach them to the value you got out of the game, or are you gonna attach it to the price you paid for the game? Like, how do you feel like you're gonna go when you get into the future of this?
Well, even where I'm broke, so don't say too much about that.
Well, apart from the fact that you're
I mean,
broke, I hope in 10 years you're not broke. So tell me 10 years from now, when you have a little bit of money and when you have
Jesus.
entered your adulthood, do you feel like you're. I'm broke.
so probably 10 years, if I'm not broke in 10 years from now, probably. So at this current stage, when I open Steam and I just browse for a few games, and usually the price tag is what's stopping me from actually getting them. I mean, I do see a lot of games which I would like to play and would like to discover a bit. But once I see the price tag, it's just I quickly change my mind and then scatter through the next category or whatever. But every now and then I do. Okay, so usually if I get a few games that are in a similar price range and that is affordable, I would usually compare them to each other and do a bit of research for each one. And upon deciding then, I'll probably get one of them, and maybe in a few years, I'll use another one as a comparison and maybe hit that one wins then. So yeah, it really just depends on which internet, what can I say, comparison.
Okay, no, but it's a valid thing. I mean, everyone wants to feel that way. Everyone wants to feel like it's money well spent, an investment or something like that. It's a natural thing. I don't. I'm hearing a lot of
Yeah.
Discord messages, which I hope is like not someone telling me that they're dropping off. But the last one, Mr. Imagine, the reviewer. How do you feel, modern-wise, in the future? How the reviewing is going to change for you? Are you going to feel like you're going to find more great games?
Always. There's always going to be great games.
Well,
Like,
I like that.
otherwise, what? Games are going to die? Like, games aren't going to die. Games,
Tomorrow.
There's always going to be a great
You're going to
game.
wake up and gaming's gone tomorrow.
No, there will always be. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk. I mean, even No Man's Sky. Whatever the game is, there's always going to be something new that's going to release that people are going to enjoy. There'll be something this year that'll just blow people out of the water. You know, there's always going to be something good.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4.
Yeah,
I cannot wait. This time with a 2-hour campaign.
It's not going to be that game, but there will be a game.
I hope so. As a final thought, I did get a little bit of a nice little message from someone who couldn't make the podcast, Mr. Lazy Demoni. He's not unfortunately here to tell me that is the correct way to pronounce his name, so Lazy Demoni. I hope that's the way he wants me to say that. He did give a little bit of thoughts, and I thought like maybe we can just, tell us if we agree or not. It is obviously he's touched on a few subjects we already talked about, but like maybe we can agree with him or have something to say. But he says for this, firstly, having so many good games makes it easy. If a game disappoints someone, there's always something else. So he says if the perception of what like Sock mentioned of Starfield, everyone ragged on Starfield, they're just like, oh well, we'll just move on. There's another big game coming in 2023. It's no biggie. We'll just move on. And then also obviously it helps when you have a year that also has Baldur's Gate 3 here that he mentions. He also says there are more studios creating more games and they're of a generally higher standard. He thinks this is contentious. I don't know. I think we all were kind of in agreeal here that they, on average, games are better these days than what they were back then. On average, they are. I think that's not something we can really refute unless you do like your retro stuff way more. I don't know. Anyone ever say no, they're not?
If games are on average much better, I agree. Like we said, but now I thought about it. Like something's bad. Oh wow, nothing stands.
I said on average they're better. We have incredibly high highs and we have incredibly low lows. Okay?
Yeah, I agree entirely with that. But when something is bad now, it's like I don't think I've ever seen something as bad as Golem.
Or the day before.
What about the King Kong game, bro? I mean,
Avatar
dude.
Bend of the Water.
The King Kong game. How did I forget about the King Kong game?
There are too many to mention, dude. But apart from the
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, I think average wise, we can all agree we're in a space where like we can expect a good game almost at any point in time from anyone, hopefully. He says, I'm old enough that I remember forums. He says the way we consume games has definitely changed the way we talk about them and like how he feels like great games are portrayed. He says, I'm old enough that I remember forums, the nag ones in particular. There was an expectation to discuss and contribute meaningfully. I don't think this happens as effectively with Discord or Twitter. No, it does not. We just get into arguments or send feedbacks. Where people would share random game clips now and are subjected to character limits. Don't get me wrong, these avenues expand on the way we can do this, but forums offered something else. Like I think we also mentioned, just the absolute speed that the internet is at now is you can't keep up. You just can't keep up anymore.
Metal Gear Solid 2 reference.
I did that unknowingly. But yeah, like I said, he also says now it seems people rely on others to tell them about games in the form of streams and video essays. Both are great, but tend to be passive in terms of being involved in actual game discussion. Now, that's interesting for me as well, because like I think back in the day, as we mentioned, we relied on published stuff and word of mouth. Maybe the format's just changed, but I think maybe the source has become unreliable. I don't know. You tell me. Do you feel like your source has become unreliable over the years?
Yep.
I feel like I don't usually trust any review on the internet just now. I have a very select few of internet review stuff I actually trust.
I mean, unless we're talking about IGN and we're talking about the 7 out of 10s of the game, that the game
7 out of 10. Too much water.
I mean, we're kind of privileged in the modern age. I read reviews, but I don't read reviews to buy a game. I watch YouTube videos to buy a game or Twitch streams.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just want to mention. Thanks, Imagine, for joining. I know he was probably Discord messaging me because he did say I needed to leave early. Thanks, Imagine, for joining. I do appreciate your input. Yeah. But yeah, no, I do agree with you. Like, we are privileged. I think the problem is people abuse privilege a lot. It's annoying. People don't always just accept privilege and feel good about it and use it for good. They abuse privilege. But yeah. He also mentions, going back to the quantity of games released, the notion of a backlog of games would have been laughable in my youth. As you've mentioned, you're only releasing 3 shooters in like a year. That's obvious. Like, you're not going to have a backlog because you're literally going to be waiting on the next shooter. But now it feels like there's so much I have to play to avoid FOMO, something that we all agree on. This kind of makes gaming less enjoyable and also feels difficult to discuss a game which released more than a couple of years ago. Sock mentioned literally Hogwarts and Violet, and it seems like everyone's just, poof, it's gone out of their memory, even though it's a year old. So this might create the perception that games are less discussed, even though they were, but only for a short while, of course. So, yeah, I think that's a very good point to end it, is the fact that, like, because we live in such a bubble, because everything is instant and short term now, I think we're seeing the exact same amount of discussion on a game now, but everything is so concentrated now that we move on, and then everything is so concentrated again that it's like, it's just too much to process after a while. Like, it just flies out of my memory. It's a very complex.
Or maybe they weren't memorable.
Maybe they weren't memorable. That could also be it. Like, that's also the thing. Maybe it's just a good game, not a great game. You're sitting in there.
I think we just look too much into it, bro. Like, some of them just aren't memorable. That's just it, bro.
It could be. It could be.
That's literally just it. We just look way too deep into it.
No, it could be. Like, not every game needs to be analyzed as a video essay. There are dumb, fun games out there, and I like my dumb, fun games. I will swear high and low, the best shooter I have played in the last 5 years is Splitgate. It's a shooter that, well, I know Slow and Marty knows it because I like forced them to play it with me. I liked Splitgate because it was stupidly fun. It was stupidly fun. It was a cross between Halo and Portal, essentially, and it was dumb. It felt like a game out. I will not lie. It kind of felt like Quake, but yeah, it felt like Quake because it was like everyone starts with the same ladder and you pick up guns throughout the arena, and you have some portals. But it was dumb fun. It was damn fun that way as well. Like, that's what I enjoyed. I don't think every game needs to be out there creating the new great mechanics and stuff. And that's the other thing. Is like, it's also perfectly okay to make a good game. We should strive to make great games. That's the thing. It's okay to make a good game, but don't think the standard should be a good game. You see the balance you need to make. It's kind of like, it's okay, you're not good in everything, and not everything needs to be a masterpiece. But we do expect at this point the masterpiece today to surpass the masterpiece of yesterday. I think still that should be the approach. I don't know. Final thoughts from anyone?
Rightfully so. No, I think there was a lot said today, and with regards to what we spoke about, um, people obviously have varying opinions on certain things, and that's what you said in the beginning of this episode. And just learning about what people have to say about certain topics, certain games, and how they feel about specific genres and stuff like that. It's eye opening, and at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense, because most gamers agree with other gamers on specific things. So it's new, but at the same time, it's a given. So
yeah. Sometimes the obvious, you just need to face the obvious. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else got their closing thought?
I mean,
I think we've said
everything that was said
everything.
is like.
Yeah.
I think everything that was said is like pretty good, man.
Yeah, I think we all summed it up. Well, I do want to say for all of you out there that's been debating our stuff, you're all wrong. Everyone in here has all the best opinions. But no, if any of you watching this podcast,
Yeah, your opinion doesn't mean jack shit, bro.
No, I'm not gonna read your damn opinion. But if you want to post your opinion,
have you seen my combo on Reddit? Come on, dude.
No, if you want to post your opinion about this whole podcast, about all of our thoughts and stuff, yeah, post it down in the comments. I mean, this is a very, like I said, it's a very contentious topic. It's a very debating topic. I'd love to hear everyone's feedback. But again, thank you to every single one of you who joined me: Jude, Sock, Slow, Marty, and Imagine, who has now departed already. I appreciate all of you. It was fun. It was fun also, as Jude mentioned, eye-opening to see everyone's opinion on that, take on that. But yeah, definitely going to be doing some more delicious topics on some later podcasts. But again, thanks to you, gents, for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. And to all of you who had a listen, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.